Oh yeah.
Did it? All right guys, before we get into today's video, we've done the drawing for the 64 Volkswagen Beetle, and that winner is Christopher Pia from North Carolina. We've contacted Christopher and we're hoping we can work with him to get him out to Chattanooga, Tennessee in order to receive the 64 Beetle and take it home to North Carolina. I want to thank all of you guys so much for all the support on this. I'd really like to do another car at some point in the future, but it was really fun putting this car together, knowing that it was going to go to one of you guys. So if you purchased a keyring for the 64 Beetle, thank you guys so much for all of the support. I really hope to do something like this again. Let's get into today's episode because it's a big one. What is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am here in Walnut Grove, California, working on my E23 733 for the Overcrest Rally in Southern Utah in just 1 month. So as I left you guys off in the last episode, I flew out here for 1 week. This is day 2, but technically day 1 on this car. We're taking my E24 635 CSI Euro market car that I shipped out here a couple years ago, and we're gonna take this automatic out of this E23 and we're gonna put the CSI drivetrain into it, putting a Dogleg Gearbox 5-speed manual into this car. Essentially building a 733 CSI that BMW never built, as their CSIs were coupes and this is a saloon 4-door. This is something I've always wanted to do. I love flagship cars. I love big 4-door saloons, and a 4-door saloon with a Dogleg gearbox in it is basically a dream setup. So before we start tearing things apart, I'm gonna take this thing for a spin up and down the street. This is the first time I'm driving the car on the ground control coilovers. Because about 2 years ago when I came out here, we went to ground control and they had already built us a set of coilovers for this car. And just going across the bridge, it rides pretty well. Tell me you're in California without telling me you're in California. Oh my gosh. All right, so I almost forgot I was in California for a minute. I just put 91 in this thing. I told her to put $15 on the pump, thinking that'll get me just a few gallons. 91 here in Northern California is $6.30. $6.30 a gallon. I can't even believe that. Let's take this thing for a quick rip. It really rides quite nice. We don't have it as low as I'm probably gonna put it for the rally, but this thing rides pretty nice. Oh man. And we haven't set the suspension up at all yet, but we had ground control build us a full custom set of adjustable coilovers for this car 2 years ago. I've been keeping this project super quiet because I wasn't sure when we were going to tackle it since it's so far away from home, but that's why we sent the 635 cross country out here to California, so at least it was here when we decided to start this project. This thing's sick. This thing is so cool. This makes me miss my E23 so much. Ever since I built my right-hand drive E23, I always said I wanted to do another one in a different format. So the last one was air suspension, 18s, a cruiser. You know, it was a manual gearbox car, not a dogleg, but it was just like a cruiser. But I always wanted to do one with a dogleg gearbox on coilovers and make it like a big saloon canyon carver. So that's what we're doing with this car, and taking it to Utah on the Overcrest Rally just seems so fitting. So as soon as I left off in the last episode, the alternator's junk. I couldn't keep it running without a jump pack on it. So first and foremost now, we got to put an alternator in it, put a battery in it. Let's get to that, and we'll see how far we get today. Hopefully we're starting to pull stuff out of the 635 before the end of the day. All right guys, so we left you off with showing you the car that we're going to build for the rally. So in this episode, we're going to tear down the 635. We're going to get the drivetrain out of that. The boys here have already had this in the shop and the 635 to kind of connect some dots to make sure that we kind of had the parts we absolutely needed before I flew out here. So it's not really starting to trip off on a good foot when immediately it won't start or stay running. But we're going to throw some parts at it. All right, so Gage is helping me out on this thing. We're down here with my poor old 635. You guys got reintroduced to this thing in the last episode. This Euro bumper here won't work on the 7 Series, unfortunately, but it's worth keeping because it is a Euro bumper. We're gonna drag this up top into the shop and we'll start looking at dropping the transmission and the drive shaft out of it. And this poor girl is going to donate some vital and rare parts to the 7 Series, since I believe this is a 265/5 Dogleg gearbox in this car. Good. Hopefully there's no black widows in here. We're in California. All right, here we go. Okay, there's no foot pedal. Wow, that actually works. That drags the rear wheel. Oh. Now I gotta try to film and work the e-brake and the steering wheel and not run into them. All right, well, we got the 635 up top in the bay, and now we're assessing everything that's got to come out before we drop the transmission. So Gage is getting interior stuff sorted out now. Boy, this poor old car. I know it's a big bummer that this car isn't going to see the road again, but it is just tender. And actually, I've never seen it on the lift. Gage and Sutton and the guys here have seen it on the lift, but just by getting in the car, you can tell the floors are gone, inner fender wells up front are gone. Yeah, it's really too bad. I mean, you guys know I'd put up with this stuff. You know, I'd drive it, I'd leave it, but 7 Series is much more solid, so drivetrain is going in that. So the game we're playing at the moment is find the hidden screws. I hate interior work like this, especially if you don't know like where they are and you're messing with like old brittle plastic and you don't know if you have to just pull. If it's a clip, you always end up breaking stuff and it's the worst. All right. This is the New Hampshire signs of wear. All the familiar places.
My E12 over there is from New Hampshire.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
It's not blue by any chance, is it?
Yeah.
3-speed auto?
Yeah.
That might be my old car. There's no way. How long have you had
I'm sure
it?
it isn't. Beige interior.
I had a blue one with a 3-speed auto with
Beige.
blue interior.
Okay, beige.
Blue interior, okay. Well, this is what she looks like from underneath. I never had it on a lift. I only crawled under it just enough to see the signs of the salt and just utter carnage.
Carnage.
Yep.
Take a look from this angle.
Northeast cars, yep. See, so for any of you guys watching that are really bummed we're not putting this E24 back on the road, look at that. And let alone up top, shock towers, inner fenders. I mean, it's getting into the frame rail here. Look at this. Just destruction. I mean, you can see all the way up into the cabin from there. So you guys know what I'm talking about now that I moved to Tennessee and I praise all of the cars down there that are rust-free. This is what I mean. This is what I'm used to seeing. I mean, all the Mark I and Mark II Volkswagens I've ever owned, this was usual scenario, par for the course. Essentially, what we're here to do is take this boy out of here. And although the shift bushings are pretty sloppy, it does feel like it's a dogleg gearbox. And from everyone, I know at BMW Heritage has talked to me about what this thing should be. It should actually be a 265/5, if I have that correct, dogleg gearbox. Oh, jeez. There it goes. Make a mess. coming out. Yep. Drive shaft is out.
I finished up with the shifter assembly, and there's a huge Black Widow. It's lovely.
Oh, no way. Holy cow. That is literally death for someone who's allergic to those things.
Painful as hell.
Unbelievable. I will never live in California. Spray the balls out of that thing. All right, so threat neutralized. Working on shift linkage now. Hopefully no more Black Widows dropping from the sky. There you go.
There it goes. All right.
All right, so we got the drive shaft out, shift linkage is out. All right, so front bell housing covers off, which also gains access to the crank positioning sensors and the bell housing. So we're taking those out now. We've got a crank position sensor that is being really, really stubborn. There we go. Man alive. Oh, got it. Holy mackerel. How many Black Widows with all that?
How much of the car is going to be on the rack when we're done?
I know. And how much of it will be on the floor while the rest of it's still on the rack. All right, so working on bell housing bolts now. There's a few that are easy to get to, and there's a few that are not so easy to get to. Gage has most of them broken free now, except for the top ones, which are a little bit smaller. Last few bolts, like we're working on bell housing bolts and cradle, and this thing should be on the ground.
This one, no problem.
So what we're doing now is we're undoing the cradle bolts, and we're gonna drop the transmission a little bit. And this side, oh. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Did it?
Well, she's out. She's on the ground. And it was a hotel for a little bit, looks like. The whole reason why we're doing this isn't to just 5-speed swap the 7 Series, is to put a CSI Euro dogleg gearbox in it. And it feels like that's what was in it, even though the bushings on the shifter were pretty sloppy. No shift pattern anywhere in the car, but everything felt right. That's everything that we need, except, Gage and I were talking about this earlier, this tab right here basically acts as like bracket for the shifter. Even though those E23s did come as manuals, I'm not sure if that E23 tunnel is gonna have that guy. So if we get this thing cut out, if the E23 doesn't have it, we could put this in.
Real hits.
Whoa, boy. Yeah. I like it. Yeah. That is the flywheel we need.
It's pinned. Perfect.
All right, flywheel's out. So we are done with the 6 Series. Well, that is a major component of this 6 Series stripped. It's not really that sentimental to me because I never really drove the car, did anything with it. All right, so after only one drive in the E23, we've got it up on the lift and we're taking a look at what's gonna correlate and what isn't, but look at how solid this car is. Come on. You guys remember on the 635, none of this even exists anymore. It's literally long gone. And look at the pinch weld all the way up. Pinch weld, sills, not a rust blister anywhere on it. That is just insane. All up in here, all back here. Man, look at this pinch weld. It's like brand new. Frame rails, firewall. This is when being from New Hampshire is like just, seems like just such a godsend to find a car this old with no rust at all. It's incredible. I mean, even though it's got some damage here and there, up under here is just so solid. None of this, no rust. All right, so this is the automatic transmission. As you guys can see, this is the transpan. This is where all the fluid sits. Cross member is different in this car than what's in the 635 on the Get Drag. This bell housing is much larger because of the torque converter. We got a lot of lines that we don't need for the manual gearbox.
So we've got the electronic speedo from there.
And what should be known,
LSD.
yeah, we got ourselves an LSD in this. And what's crazy is it doesn't have the cooling fins in the case of the diff, which the 635 does, but that wasn't rolling as if it was a posi. So, which is crazy because the 635 CSI should have an LSD in it. But we do know that this one does, and what I didn't film because I wasn't here was Sutton did a burnout in the shop in this car and sent me a photo of 2 rubber marks and said, well, the E23 has a posi in it. So that's one good thing. This cross member might have to get modified. We might have to use this cross member for the distance from the front of the bell housing to where the cross member needs to be.
Hopefully we need it right here, and it's right there.
Yeah.
So we need to basically move it forward about 4 inches.
And as you guys can see, these are adjustable. So as long as those studs let us take that nut off, we should be able to slide those studs up. And if we gotta modify this, that's okay. We're not afraid of that. What we haven't talked about yet is the fact that there's a Euro E23 with a manual out back. And that's what we're gonna be robbing the pedal cluster out of, because the E24 635 pedal cluster, for some reason, won't bolt in to the E23. And Sutton, being Sutton, has a Euro market E23 with a 5-speed in it outside that we can use the pedal cluster out of, and I might be able to talk him out of the Euro bumpers on that thing. Because if we can Euro bumper swap this thing and Dogleg gearbox manual swap it, yeah, this thing's gonna be a pretty wild car. One thing at a time. We're gonna work on drivetrain first, because since that's the most important part of this whole project. All right, exhaust is out. It has been welded in every single joint. So it is now one unit. Oh, put up a fight, but it's out. I'll get that belly pan off and we'll gain access to the drive shaft. All right, so those of you who are wondering about drive shaft lengths, this is the drive shaft out of the 635 with the manual box. This longer one is out of the E23 with the automatic box. Now, we can't just look at these two and go manual shorter, automatics longer, because this came out of a shorter car, the 6 Series. What's the real point of concern are the carrier mounting points in the tunnel in the cars. We don't really have to worry about that quite yet, because there's a Euro spec manual E23 out back that's a complete car that we can ultimately use parts off of. We got to get that thing up here and pull the drive shaft out of that, because that is this car, which is this length, with a 5-speed manual gearbox in it, which is exactly what we're putting in it. So we should be safe there. It just might involve getting another car up here and pulling another drive shaft out. All right, so what we're doing now, that's a Grant Anderson move right there. We're taking the lines off now, and we're getting ready to, basically get the transmission out. That's next. So a bell housing bolt has a guide that holds this hard line in for the dipstick. Not hard line, but the dipstick tube. And now, dipstick tube is out. This shares what looks to be the same crank position sensors as the 635 CSI, which is great, because we can use these in the dog box when that goes in. And they seem to be working, because the car starts and runs. Before I could even grab the camera, he's already got them out. So this is definitely a blessing having someone helping me on this project, because we're more apt to get it done in a week. All right, so we just got torque converter bolts out. Now we're working on the kick down, because that's got to come off the transmission as well. Was it loose?
Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah, I didn't crack it.
That's crazy.
Or if I think I did.
Oh boy!
I wish that would have gone a lot better.
Yeah. All right, now to get that thing out. What a mess. Just so warm. Yep, there it goes. So it looks like there's 4 threaded ports for the starter.
And the block.
And the top 2 are what we took out on this automatic trans, right? The small ones?
Yeah, and then the bigger ones are for the manual.
Yep.
For the 8 or 17 millimeter ones.
For that bell housing.
Yeah. You can
Yep, you can see how low they are. Yeah, yeah.
Look, you can see the old holes of where the other ones
Yep.
would be.
Wow. Yeah. That kind of tells us that those blocks should be the same.
Yep.
So we haven't mated this up yet, guys, but you'll see these are the 2 larger holes for the starter for the manual, and you can see where there's 2 smaller holes above it that are in the block of the motor that's in the 6 Series, and those would correlate
Right here. You got the tiny ones, whereas the bigger ones are like
down farther.
Yeah.
Yep, which is exactly what's going on up there. 2 up top and the larger ones underneath. Dang, that's a good sign.
Yep.
And what else is a good sign? These crank position sensors might be the same exact ones as well.
Yeah, they are.
So we don't have to mess with that harness at all.
I believe they're the same sensors, but I hope that there's not a difference between front and back, or as far as length, I guess.
All right, well, the automatic transmission is out. We just got to get the flywheel out now. We're going to do that. There it goes.
Jeez.
That's not factory.
Nope.
Oh my gosh.
It must have snapped off, or you know, something. And somebody found what was going on.
Yeah,
they must have had it snap off or something.
Wow.
And they just welded it all up.
Unreal.
No, it's not at all that bad. Nope. It's almost like the manual without the torque converter.
All right, well, Gage has been a huge help today for all the help on this thing. We got a chance to drive the E23 first of all, which is great. We still need to do transmission lines. We'll get those taken off. But for now, it's been a huge day. This is day 1. I mean, we're like ahead of schedule as far as what I thought the pace was gonna be. Everything's out on the ground. Now what we have to do is start matching what's gonna work and what's not gonna work, getting that dogleg gearbox in the car. As a fail-safe, Sutton does have a Euro E23 with a 5-speed out back. So if we've got drive shaft issues, we've got a drive shaft. If we have transmission crossmember issues, we've got one of those. Worst case scenario, we might be able to rob those parts, plus maybe some Euro bumpers, maybe. But for now, that's it for this episode. Gage, it was huge help today. Looking forward to working with him the rest of the week on this car, and hopefully by the end of this series, we're driving it and it's ready for the rally. So stay tuned for the next episode. We're gonna be installing parts in the next episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.